Yeah, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Eureka Conservative Podcast. Now coming to you on a Thursday night instead of a Tuesday due to other work commitments. Got to be able to get some money in to pay the rent, and to be blunt, the podcast doesn't do it. It's more of a hobby than a income making. Though I do have the buy me a coffee there, so if any of you feel like it's worthy of supporting, feel free. Interesting program tonight. We're going to be building on a previous policy that we announced 2 weeks ago, the Department of Liberty. And the policy, how we're going to build on it, is probably going to be, to some, a bit contradictory. So I'll explain what I'm going to be doing. There's a bit to talk about on a host of things. It's been an unbelievable week. I've personally been yeah, my co-host. There he is, JJ. Hey, gonna say hello? Here he comes. Always gets his hello in. Yes. All right, back up on your couch. On your couch. There you go. Good boy. If only our politicians were that smart and that attractive. Certainly, he's prettier looking than me. So, where was I? Yes, so we're going to be talking about a bunch of things. Some of the I haven't talked about anything from America for a while. It's been all about the Liberals, which we'll get onto, the Liberal leadership. But I'm increasingly getting annoyed, and it's interesting when you do these algorithms. I'm increasingly getting annoyed with a lot of, in particularly an American thing, whether they're Protestants or whether they're recent converts or whatever. I'm a Catholic. I'm sick to death of having my Catholic faith put in the middle of some bullshit tugs of war. All right. And that certainly happened this week in America. So I'll be talking on that. And our protest on our streets, they're back out there again. So we got a bit to chat about. And we're also going to have, because with those protests, a person I've had on a guest here before, Ben from Australia Talks. I'm hoping he will be coming on. He hasn't logged in yet. But when he does, he'll be coming on for a chat as well. So in the meantime, I'll do my little preamble. We'll do our little policy. It's not technically a policy announcement. It's a I'll just double check my mic and camera's working. Sorry. It's an add-on to a policy announcement. So you can go back through my previous episodes. But a few weeks back, we announced the Department of Liberty, and that is going to be my version of the Department of Doge that they had in America. Yeah, there it is. It's working. That's great. Except what we're going to be making our department, and can look into financials and corruption, all that. But more importantly, this was inspired by the hate speech laws. Any law, any bureaucracy, anything that will impose on the liberty of Australians, the Department of Liberty is to address and make recommendations to the government on their removal. So the recent hate speech laws, 18C, for example, and just to make sure every Australian liberties things are being respected, because I think most of us out there think we're becoming more oppressive as a country with our laws, our governments, our legislation. It's just continuously impacting on our freedoms, the social media bans and what they have planned for the future. So I think we need a government department, doesn't have to be major staffed or anything, that can look at other government departments and how we can reduce them. A key part of that Department of Liberty will be to reduce bureaucracy and spending, so we are not oppressed by overbearing taxes, for example, or government debt. That should be things. So it'll have a pretty wide, and remember, these are just my policies I'm going to be putting towards politicians. Who knows? They might grab one of them. If I can get one up, great. But it's my framework for a policy idea, and we will definitely be putting these policy ideas towards our politicians. And who knows, after tomorrow, there could be some wide open ears in the Liberal Party for a change. We'll see. I haven't yet put them seriously by One Nation, but I'm certainly intending to do that next week. So the add-on that we're going to do to the Department of Liberty Policy. Now, this is going to seem a little contradictory. And one of the reasons Ben got on here is because I had a one-word reply to one of his posts. And Ben's a good guy, young kid, speaks well, knowledgeable. I like having him on. But I just did say bullshit to one of his social media posts. He said, "Can I come on and talk about it?" And I said, "Yeah, of course you can." So hopefully he logs on soon and we can get him on, and we'll get going. So in the meantime, we're going to move on to protest. All right. I'm a big advocate for free speech. I found myself actually in arguments with a lot of my libertarian friends where they actually block me on X, which is quite interesting because I would have thought a key plank of being a libertarian would be to engage in open debate and dialogue. John Ruddock being one, for example, who blocks me, but he marches with the pro-Palestinian mob and dog whistles to the NSN mob. So I'm just a humble boomer who's got a podcast and I get blocked. So I've had pretty much the entire New South Wales Libertarian Party block me because I ask them some tough questions and I question some of their ethics. So, but I do that with every politician. So I don't know why they're so special, but I do find them a bit touchy. Now, this is a party, and the Victorian Libertarians on the opposite end are brilliant, okay? And I get on famously well with nearly all of them, especially on X. But I do have, unlike a person who is an absolute free speech advocate, so you can say whatever you want, do whatever you want, do whatever. I don't quite go that far because you've got to respect everybody's liberties. So when your free speech comes across and it impacts on other person's liberties to go about their business, that's the line you cross, in my book. I know there'll be plenty out there who disagree with me, but I'm going to make that argument, and that's one of the reasons Ben got on here, so we'll no doubt discuss that a bit as we get on. So all these protests, number one, it's been going on for well over 2 years. You've got your point across. You've had plenty of free speech opportunity to get your opinion out there. Not everybody else gets out and protest every week on free speech. Free speech sometimes is not protest. Free speech is expressing an opinion, going out there, having that debate, engaging in it, and you can do it respectfully. You don't need to be going down and, the pro-Palestinian marches aren't respectful. I would argue, and I will get flack for this, that even a lot of the March for Australia speeches aren't respectful. I'd say a lot of the marches are, the people who cover themselves in flags, but I've seen several March for Australia now where people get to these stadiums and then these speakers, and then the speakers turn them off and they walk away. So there's free speech and, you've got the right to say certain things as long as you're not threatening other people with harm. So when you start impinging on other people's liberties or impinging on a liberty is their health and well-being, if you have speech that will inspire harm upon other people, there is definitely a point you go too far. So I'm not an absolutist, but I'm close to it. All right. Our pro-Palestinian mobs. So they had the chance the other night, and God bless New South Wales Police. Good on them. I will cop flack from those COVID-19 protesters. I was right on board with the COVID-19 protesters. That was an Australian issue. People were getting oppressed by our government. They went out there to protest it, and I believe they got attacked by the police and their government. So on that issue, I'm happy to say, and they weren't held every week. Don't forget, we had restrictions on us. They had to go get the permits. People went march, all that sort of thing. Whereas the pro-Palestinian mob have been going every week. The ones who organised the COVID marches pretty much worked with police and bureaucracies to make sure they could get those marches done. And they were predominantly peaceful protesters. In fact, the only time I saw any violence was when the police shot bullets at them. So, and I spoke out against that the whole time. I didn't go to any protest. I did mine online like I tend to do. But the pro-Palestinian mobs are a bit different. So this week in Sydney, they went out to protest, and then they just deliberately provoked the police. They were given a route. They had plenty of organisation, and they could have easily cooperated and gone where The police agreed for them to go to mount their protests, get their media coverage, do all that. But they deliberately went out to provoke the police to get in the media to protest this Israeli president that's come across. It's not like they hadn't already got some public exposure with their other stupid protests and whatever announcements. So, and then you had, which I think is an intimidatory tactic, where you had a bunch of Muslim men behind their, what do you call them, imam, and they were doing a public prayer. Now on the TV, on Just Bolt, there's calls for Muslims to go out this weekend and wherever they can find, start praying in public. Sorry, step too far. That's not free speech anymore. This is now public intimidation. This is the big middle finger to especially what I would call traditional Australians with Anglo-European heritage that have got, 2-3 generations of line in that heritage in here. They're bringing overseas issues onto Australian streets. They're impacting on business. They're impacting on people to be able to go in the city. They're impacting on people to be able to go to the football, the cricket, the museums, the restaurants, the movies. We can't enjoy our cities the way we used to be able to enjoy our cities because every time you go in there, every weekend, there's a rabid mob. If they just have to think you're an Israeli or you look like a conservative or you might be wearing a Trump hat or you're wearing an Australian flag and you get the shit kicked out of you. How's that free speech? How's that freedom of movement? If your protest is going to impact on my liberties to go where I want, to do the activities what I want, to assemble where I want, to hang out with what I want, to do what I want, it's gone from free speech to insurrection. These pro-Palestinian protests aren't about free speech. They are about insurrection. There's a key difference. Now, it's been interesting in what I've found and why I got myself into an argument is, I feel the March for Australia guys started getting stuck into me. And I know what they're doing. They're a bit worried that, if any restrictions come in, it'll impact their ability to march. Well, I think we should be smart enough to be able to tell the difference between those who are protesting on issues that impact on Australians and those that protest on issues that don't impact on Australians and are looking to tear down Australian values, culture, and people. Now, you can agree or disagree with the March for Australia mob, and I have my disagreements with them. But I've also got no doubt a big motivator for them is their love of country. Okay, we can disagree on things, but I can agree with that. I've also got no doubt, despite my disagreements with them, on the whole, outside some of their language, they've predominantly been peaceful marches. Now, you can argue about the NSN and Thomas Sewell and what they sort of did. Okay. But if you watch the majority of the marches, they're just normal Aussies putting an Aussie flag on who are just pissed off with what they're seeing in their country. They want their country back. It's an Australian issue. I don't know. I put in a post that's got a massive response, a really good one actually, which is nice. Sometimes I put up posts that don't. I just don't know why so many in the West, it's not just an Australian thing, why we're getting so wound up about a country on the other side of the planet. And I'd say it's probably a great country. I've never been there, but it's in the middle of the bloody desert. And I'm talking about Israel. It's a country smaller size than Tasmania. It's got 10 million people and they want to live there. Okay, that's Zionism or Zionist or whatever you want to call it. I don't give a rat's ass. If they want to live over there, if they want that little plonk of land in Jerusalem as their capital city, I couldn't care. Good luck to them. They're surrounded. Does anyone even know they're surrounded by 22 Islamic countries with 421 million Muslims in it? And they fight every day of every hour of every year to maintain that as their homeland. Good luck to them. They have to fight endless wars. They've got a peace treaty now, but we all know it's only a matter of time before they're back at war again. We talk about Australian culture and fighting and all that. Take the Jewish part out of it. Do those 10 million Israelites, because don't forget there's Arabs and Christians and all that in there. It's not just Jews. Do those 10 million Israelites fight like tigers for their country? Hell yes, they do. They fight for their culture, their values, their beliefs. If only Australians fought like they do, take the Jewish thing out of it, take the Zionist thing out of it. They have a homeland that they fight for. They have their culture that they fight for. They have their heritage that they fight for. We sit back and we let everyone walk in and our politicians sell us out. There's your comparison. So why are we getting so wound up? Why do we get so wound up about it? It's not our issue. And everyone's going to go, oh, well, there's 70,000 innocents get killed. Guess what? In the Middle East, since Cain killed Abel, there's been wars, atrocities, people losing their lives without any justice. Where are these protesters for Palestine? Why aren't they protesting for Iranian citizens? 40,000 of them slaughtered because they dared protest against the government. And you can go on for example after example of Muslim killing Muslim. Syria, Jordan, Turkey, Iraq, Egypt, Nigeria, atrocities after atrocities. So the hypocrisy is ridiculous. They never march on our streets. Did you see one protest on our streets from these pro-Palestinian mobs who go out when the Iran government was slaughtering their own people? No. So this is not free speech. This is not about making an argument. This is an insurrection. And they're bringing it on our streets. And any idiot, oh, I shouldn't say idiot because you're not an idiot, any person with an IQ above 10 with eyes and ears can see that the socialists and Marxists have jumped on board and they are using these protests to tear down Australia and our way of life. If you can't see that, your head's just full of Jew hatred. I'm sorry. The bigger threat to Australia is not the Jews. The bigger threat to Australia is radical Islam and the Marxists. And then I'll have some moron come back to me and say, oh, well, the communists, they were established by Jews. Yeah, were they practicing Jews? No. So, I mean, it's like people who put on the cloak of Catholicism to spread hatred. You know, there is bad Jews, there's good Jews. And in my lifetime, I've met plenty of good Jewish people. On the flip side, I've also met a number of good Muslim people too. You know, I've probably met more arseholes on the Christian side than the other faith. But I just don't understand why we get so wound up. Our country is being divided by an issue that is on the other side of the bloody world that probably none of these protesters have ever stepped foot on. If you've got an issue with what's going on in Israel, and, you know, we say this flippantly, but seriously, get on a plane, go over to Israel, go to the Israeli parliament and protest there. It's not our issue. We've got plenty of issues with immigration, affordable housing, cost of living. This is not our issue. Why aren't we out in the streets protesting that? Now, the March for Australia mob, good luck to them. Good luck to Scott Challenge. They are protesting these things. We need to keep the eye on the ball. I never, in my own personal experience, until about 1987, I'm going to give away my age here, I'd never met a Jewish person. Now, that means I'm trying to think, 25 years I've been on this planet, never met a Jewish person. Came down to Melbourne and I just happened to land in Bentley East, if you know that, and that's in the city of Glen Ira, and that's pretty heavily populated with the Jewish population. And at that stage, I was running a sports association, so you got to meet quite a number of Jewish people. In 30 years of running basketball associations, businesses, never once had an issue with a Jewish person, except for one. Sorry, there's a lot, but one out of hundreds. And, you know, I've got to know families, I've got to know junior players, I've got to know Jewish communities. When I was homeless, I had a Jewish family take me in. When no one, they found out at one stage I was sleeping out of the back of my four-wheel drive. I just couldn't get any rental at that point. Took me 3 months, finally got one in. And this Jewish family found out about it without any hesitation, gave me a room, put a roof over my head. They gave me 3 meals a day and until I could find somewhere to go. No one else offered to help. Plenty of other people and friends knew where my situation. I wasn't asking for help, but they offered it, took me in, and I'll always be grateful for them. So for doing that. So I just don't get why we're so wound up about this. I just don't get why people are getting on there. And some of the ridiculous theories that keep coming out, you can make theories and conspiracies about any race of people. You could make them about Christians, which they do, Catholics, which they do, Muslims, everyone's too scared, Even atheists, whatever you want to do, you can come out with all the different theories and make all these ridiculous accusations. Bring the receipts. All right. And are there Jewish people that are arseholes? Was Epstein an arsehole? Yeah. Epstein's one of God knows how many Jews there are on the planet. Just one. You know? So, you know, if you do that, I wouldn't do it, but I could give you names of people who are Jewish who are fantastic people. So we've got arseholes everywhere, and we've got good, thankfully, we've got a lot of good more people. So a lot of more good people everywhere across all faiths. So, and I've got to deal with all of them. I deal with bloody Hindus, what are you in Vietnam? Buddhism, yes. Christians, Protestants are starting to piss me off a bit. Like I said, Jews, Muslims, you name it, I've dealt with it. And in all faiths, there are good people across all of them. So I just don't understand why we're so bent out of shape and why we're letting these anarchists on our streets. And good on Chris Minns, good on the New South Wales Police. It's about time they got called out. And this is not a case of free speech. This is a case of fighting back against anarchists who want to tear down our way of life. So I think we need to identify, and this is coming to my policy, we need to identify how, in a better way, people can go about their expression of free speech and their expression of protest. And it's got to be under the guidelines that you can go ahead and do all that. So we're not restricting your free speech, but it can't be in a way that it actually impacts on the liberties of other people. Simple. Now, I'd have a couple of ideas on that. And one of them would be, and I don't see why we can't do this, is you find a big patch of land. And what do most protesters want to do? They want to create inconvenience. They want to block off intersections. They want to stop people going to work. There was a group of pro-Palestinians. Apparently this mob have some connection to Israel. So they stopped all the workers who are in a cost of living issue in Australia from going to work. They stopped that business from generating revenue, cash flow to pay those employees. It's insane. And then they're celebrating about it. And they're committing to coming back. Well, they should be arrested and sent to jail. You know, you're impacting on the liberties of another person to go to work and get a wage and support his family. You're impacting on those people who run that business to get a cash flow to generate the revenue to employ those people. That's just insane. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. It goes right across the board. I would make this argument, that's not against a pro-Palestinian mob. I would make it against trade union marches. You know, have your trade union march, but don't impact on other businesses. Don't impact on people, you know, small business owners in the city. You know, God knows what they've been going through. They've had COVID for 3 years and then 2 years of these protests. I mean, good luck running a business anywhere around the city. You know, it's just insane. So just have a quick check on Ben in case I got a message. So just bear with me just a little bit, guys. I just want to double check Ben's all right. He might not be able to make it. No, there's nothing there. We'll keep going. So, yeah, what we want to do is come up with the parameters. So, for example, there should be restrictions on how many times you can have a protest, whether it's once a month, once every 3 months, once wherever. You shouldn't be able to do what the pro-Palestinian mob are coming and doing and coming out week after week after week. You shouldn't be able to do that. All right, you shouldn't be able to stop people from enjoying their own city. So there's a whole bunch of areas, and this is where the Department of Liberty are going to have to find a way for people to express their speech, have the right to protest, but go about it in a manner that doesn't impact on others. And let the media go cover it. You know, why does it have to be in the middle of the city? Why does it have to be in the middle of an intersection? Why are people allowed to stand in front of cars and send them other directions? You shouldn't be able to do that. There should be laws against that. And if there are laws, we should be enforcing them. We don't seem to be. And for the first time in a very long time, the New South Wales police did it, and the usual suspects come out screaming free speech, civil liberties, blah, blah, blah. I think there should be a designated area, and there should be and everyone cracks at saying you can't have a permit process for protests. Why not? I need to get a license to be able to drive a car. You need to be able to have a permit to sell food. So why can't you have a permit system as long as it's done fairly for protest? And if you have a designated area, and I would prefer it to be well out of the city and well out of the way of people going about their daily lives, but, if you had a big football-sized land where people can go in there, get their 10,000 people, have all the signs and flags they want and walk around that big block of land for 2-3 hours. Good luck to them. They can get the media down there and all that. But you know what will happen? The protests will die off because it won't be newsworthy. It's not controversial enough. And the media have got a role to play in this too. They just give these bastards like that little Josh Lees with his man bun and his fat gut. I've got a fat gut, but I'm not down impacting on other people's way of life. So talk about one of the most vile people I've seen. If you don't know him, you'll see him. But he's whinging because the police sprayed him with capsicum spray. Bad luck, mate. F-A-F-O. So suffer. So, yeah, the Department of Liberty, one of their main jobs they would be given was to figure out a process on how people can get the right to free speech, right to protest, but without impacting on others. Easier said than done. All right, you're going to have all the Islamic guys screaming about this. Maureen Farini or whatever her name is, all the Greens, all those, because they exist to protest. They exist to be anarchist. This is not a free speech argument. This is about protecting our way of life. So that's what I was going to talk to Ben about, because Ben was talking about protest, and that's where I said, nah, bullshit. So hopefully he's heard a bit of this. Ben does a bit of his own X Spaces, so he could be busy on that. But anyway, we'll see when Ben gets on. Hopefully he's seen a little bit of this. Otherwise, we might regurgitate it again. We'll see how we go. My second little beef today, I didn't get my rants in the last 2 days. I've been really busy at work. It's I'm finding, if I'm being brutally honest, it will all settle down so I can get them done for those who follow those. So I do apologise. But like I said, my business has got to take priority. It's the one that pays the bills. So, yeah, I'm getting a lot of issue. I don't know. I replied on an algorithm in regards to a Protestant and their version of Catholicism. And so that led the algorithm to sending me all these I just got all these Protestants on my feed. And the more I read it, the more angry I got. I mean, it's like the Jewish thing. And, I'm now actually of the firm belief, they'll come for the Saturday mob and then they'll come for the Sunday mob, which means once these protesters, and especially the Islamic ones, but it's not them, come and deal with the Jewish issue, which is a terrible thing to be saying, if you know anything about World War II, they'll then start targeting Christians. And I'm actually starting to believe that, but I think the interesting thing is I think Christians will start targeting Christians. I'm seeing a lot more hate directed from Protestants towards Catholics. And I've got a brother who's a born-again evangelist sort of thing. I've never had any hate towards any other Christian. Good luck to him. What annoys me, though, is where I displayed a Protestant pastor who was banging on about how it's a blessing to God to have an abortion. Things like that. Something that's just totally antichrist. And they're pushing it as a Christian dogma. So you get all these insane sort of theories going on. And you can, look, a lot of people love the Catholic Church, hate the Catholic Church, whatever it is, it's on there. But at least be factual. And the same thing, like, sorry, I'm going to offend here. A lot of Protestants bang on, and I've been in these arguments with a bunch of them, bang on about the Bible and how the Bible's got to be black and white and there's no way to interpret it any other way. What the Bible says is what the Bible does. Well, who compiled the Bible? Not wrote it, who compiled it? I'll get to writing it in a minute. So it was predominantly the Catholic Church in the 4th century. Now, the Gospels, the books they added to the Old Testament, were written by the apostles. Which Christian faith has a direct line back to the apostles that built the church on, the Catholic faith. So if that's the go, and Catholics are so opposed to the Bible, which is a bizarre sledge, but Protestants don't hesitate to make it. How can you embrace a Bible black and white that was put together by the Catholic Church based on the writings of the apostles, which the Catholic Church has a lineage to? So if you're saying the Bible's black and white, you've then got to respect the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith. And some of the insane things as a Catholic myself, and I'm not a good Catholic, all right, and I fail in my faith, I think, as most Christians do, right? I'm a sinner. I have to go to confession quite regularly. I just don't understand where these people with they're not even reading their Gospels. So many people who complain, they say they're black and white. A lot of these Protestants or whatever, I think they use Christianity as a tool to attack other people. But it's very clear in the Gospels when you're black and white not to judge anybody else. That is God's reserved right. God's going to judge us all when we go to our deaths. And what we've done in this life and whether we believed in Jesus, not believed in Jesus, how we've acted, how we've treated others, it's pretty clear we're going to get judged on that. It's even talked about in the Gospels. If you follow me, each day I'm reading a passage out of the book of biblical quotes. I'm finding actually a lot of things out of it. I'm doing a lot more research out of it. So, and plus I've got a lifetime of Catholicism behind me. Some of the accusations sent our way and some of those who use Catholicism to push another agenda is insane. So I don't even know a name. I'm not even going to say it. We had a little Candace Owens groupie. They have this Religion Liberty Committee or something in America, and they're supposed to be just talking about different faiths and how they can protect their liberties and all that sort of thing. Well, she used it as a Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson attack on the Jewish people and the Jewish faith. And this is a recent convert to Catholicism. She hasn't even been a Catholic for 12 months. And she decided she could have the authority to speak on behalf of all Catholics. Now, I got some flack because, you're just a filthy Zionist. God, I keep pronouncing that wrong. Shows you want to know about it. I can't even pronounce it. You're a Jew. I got all that crap coming my way this week. My biggest beef was, how dare you speak on my behalf? You don't know my life, my thinking, what my faith is. She's just spoken on behalf of 1.4 billion Catholics. Now, I know for a fact in the Catholic Church, I haven't heard, and people so you got Jews on one side who are saying Catholics are promoting anti-Semitism, and then you've got Protestants on Catholics, saying we don't go for the Bible. We don't abide by the Bible. Here's a couple of things. Every time I go to Mass, there's a first reading, there's a second reading, and then there's Gospels. So you get a reading from the Old Testament, you get a reading from the New Testament and the Gospels, which is the Gospels, a lot of it. So mind you, there's 4 books of the Gospels and there's all sorts of other letters and all sorts of things. So you're actually getting the Bible preached to you every single time you go to Mass. And Catholic Masses are happening every hour of every day of every week around the globe. So how you can possibly say Catholics don't abide by the Bible is beyond me. Do they have a different way in their interpretations with things? Yes. But every bloody Protestant vein in the church, you've got in the Protestant faith, you've got about 7 different churches, and they all have a different interpretation. And yet Protestants say, oh, no, we're black and white about the Bible. Well, if you're so black and white, why are there so many different interpretations? And good luck to you. Go live through Jesus. Love it. But don't come at my faith. And don't drag my faith in the middle of all this nonsense. And that is exactly what Candace Owens doing in this Carrie Silly Bird. I mean, she used to be, I don't know, what do they call it? Stripper or something? I don't know. She had something, and I don't care. She could have been whatever she wants to be. Good on her. She's changed direction. She embraced the faith. But don't then come out when you're only less than 12 months in being a Catholic and speak on behalf of all of us. And, in my entire time, I was born and baptized a Catholic. Like I said, I'm not a good one, but I've been to plenty of masses, plenty of weddings, plenty of funerals. I've spoken to priests about my faith. I've been in confession. God knows how many times I've received Holy Communion. I was educated in the Catholic school system. Predominantly, sometimes we had to put up with the public school system. And I've spoken with God knows how many Catholics. And I've never heard one Catholic, and I've got no doubt there's anti-Semitic Catholics. I've got no doubt there's Catholics that have real issues with Protestants. I'm starting to understand why now. But I've never heard anybody in there come out with the anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism or anything like that in my entire life. Now, maybe I've been protected from it. But to come out then and speak in broad strokes that all Catholics are anti-Zionist, that is not possibly true. Now, I've got no doubt there probably a number of them are. I've got no doubt there's a whole lot more that aren't. Yes, that aren't anti-Zionist. I think most Catholics would support the right of the Jews to their homeland. Jesus was a Jew. The apostles were Jews. Mary was a Jew. Joseph was a Jew. Moses was a Jew. It's in there. There was, and how can we all have these different opinions about the ideology? Everyone's a religious expert all of a sudden, and I'm not. But here's the thing, about going back to my first point, and I'll get to this through all of it. It just annoys me because I'm not going to speak on behalf of a Catholic, a Jew, or Muslim, or whatever about their faith. My only issue in my life is to try and interpret my faith as best I can, so I'm best prepared when I face up to the man Jesus and he says, why do you deserve to cross this gate? And I hope I can make a bloody good argument. That day fills me through with a bit of dread. So I just think people need to back off all this ideological judgment when it specifically says in the Christian Bible, whether you're a Protestant or a Catholic, not to judge others. And that there wasn't a condition on that in the Gospels that I've read. It tells you not to judge anybody. Worry about the plank in your eye instead of worrying about the stick in someone else's. I'm pretty sure it said, and it didn't say, well, that only applies to Protestants, born again Christians, Mormons, Jews, Muslims. It's just about everybody. Basically, it's saying look after yourself. So I shouldn't, and I don't always succeed at this, sit in judgment or pretend that I'm some sort of authority. I'm not. Candace Owens is not an authority on Catholicism, though she puts it out there. She breaches Catholic virtues, teachings, and values every single time she does a podcast. If you're denying that, you don't know Catholicism. Sorry. She sits there on judgment, number one, on so many people, and she misleads people, which is in the 10 Commandments. You're not supposed to do it. With misinformation, false claims, doesn't back them up. It's the furthest thing from acting like a Catholic. You're taught from, I mean, she's a recent conversion too. I mean, I just don't understand why people, it seems like the people have chosen to take my faith, the Catholic chase, mimic themselves as a Catholic, then makes all these outlandish sort of claims that are totally opposed to being a Catholic. It's just bizarre stuff. So I just had to get it off my chest. So sorry for that. I'm not trying to evangelize, but I just think this is why we're so divided as a society, not as a country. We are divided as a country, but I mean right across Western society. There's all these arrows being thrown at each other. And while there's all these arrows and we're divided and we're pointing fingers at each other, whether we're Christian or Jews or whatever, or even Muslims, because I do believe there are good Muslims out there, but the radical elements of Islam are coming into this country and we're seeing it on the streets and these pro-Palestinian marches all the time, and useful idiots are empowering them. We are now got a call for Muslims to go out in public and pray in public across Australia. That's provocative. That's anarchy. They are looking to tear it down, and we're empowering them with us fighting each other and being at each other's throats all the time. I think it's insane, but that's just me. So that's my opinion on the matter. If you've got an opinion back for it, feel free to contribute. I haven't got any comments, I don't think. I better put the comments thing. I'm holding off for Ben to get on, but he's not here yet. Yeah. All right, Ben. So it was good last time I had Ben. We had a great chat. So next on board is the Liberals. They're having a showdown tomorrow. Oh, my God. Is it too late? I'm of the opinion, if if they don't vote out Susan Ley, they're gone. I reckon this is their last chance. I don't see them winning me back, for example. I'm really on the One Nation train right now because I can trust One Nation. They're conservative. I'm conservative. They have similar values to what I'm putting. I'm loving. I didn't think he would work, but he's surprising me. I'm willing to say I was wrong. Barnaby Joyce at the moment, touch wood, is doing a great job. Great job. And maybe it's because he's had the reins loosened so he can be who he is rather than being controlled by all the party politics and obligations that you have in retaining. If you're on the front bench, you've got to push out the party narrative, even if you disagree with it. So Barnaby seems to have got a little bit of freedom. So all I can say is go One Nation. So the Liberals are so far away of getting me back. But look, I'm a political animal, so I like watching it. But it's just the same old bullshit. The way they've even gone about this challenge, Angus Taylor should have challenged last week. Have some courage, son. He's played the game where he doesn't have to face Parliament question time, so he can have the challenge tomorrow. So question time's over now. So he's not going to have to walk in Parliament as the new leader. He didn't want to face that. Didn't want to face up to Alba. That's pretty gutless. I mean, what are you going to do when you're in a national crisis if you can't do that? So I don't believe, for me, he's got a good start, but I do believe, and I did it with Susan Ley. Susan Ley lost me when she jumped into bed with Albo on the H-bench laws. That was it. Broke my back, the straw that broke the camel's back. Not only did she break my back with her leadership, but she broke my back with her party. You just can't trust that party. So Angus Taylor, the first thing he's got to do, if he wants to get the Liberal Party back, is find a way to address the moderate problem, and he's got that moderate problem. You had bloody Malcolm Turnbull walking around the corridors of Parliament. He would be encouraging the moderates. In fact, I would put money on it now. If Angus Taylor wins tomorrow, and I think he will, that Turnbull will try and create his own political party by aligning the moderates with the Teals. Put money on it. Him and Simon Holmes a Court will get together. They'll put the funding into it. Who knows? Turnbull might make a comeback, become the leader of this new party. It wouldn't surprise me. The guy's such a narcissist and you think he could do that. I would say, fine, go for it, Malcolm. You every time you stood as a prime minister, which is only the once, or leader, the polls went backwards or you lost seats. You took Tony Abbott's thumping majority and turned it into a minority. You nearly lost the government in one term after stabbing him in the back. So I'd actually like to see that. And then you'd see a bit more of alignment with hopefully a conservative Liberal Party with the One Nation. That'd be great. So Malcolm, I hope you do that. But Angus, the talk I saw today, Tim Wilson, Zoe McKenzie and Jane Hume, they're all moderates. Jane Hume has got a bee in a bonnet because she's pissed off with Susan Ley because she put her in the backbench, and that's what's motivating her at the moment. I'm not a big fan of Jane Hume at all. See, whoever they appoint as their deputy is crucial, but they're back into the old DEI thing. It has to be a woman because we're getting rid of a woman. Why? Put your best people in the best jobs. If you want a woman, why isn't Jacinta Price in the mix? She would kill Zoe McKenzie or Jane Hume, and certainly Tim Wilson. My God, he's a Malcolm Turnbull sycophant. So, the names that they're putting up, and Taylor hasn't got a deputy he wants to support. He wants to see the part. He's playing games. It's another one playing games. It's just so he's not off to a good start. And I'm a big believer in giving people a bit of time to try and prove themselves. I'll still do that, but he's already got my doubts up. But I don't see it unless he can purge the moderates, get us onto a conservative platform like it's One Nation and convince they're going to stick to it. How he gets to that point, I don't know, because I'm not even considering the Liberals till they get to that point. And I'm hoping the One Nation surge keeps going. The Liberals have had their chance. So I hope more Liberal. The problem with what if Angus Taylor wins tomorrow, I think a number of us out there were hoping a number of Conservative MPs would jump across to One Nation. That probably won't happen now if Taylor gets up. Okay, so One Nation's got to do a fair bit of work in the background in recruiting. So my last point on the Liberals, I hope they're not that petty. I hope they're not that scared of One Nation that they won't work with One Nation to do a preference deal so the 1 and 2 preferences between those parties flow to each other. Because on the first party preferred, if you combine the One Nation vote with the LNP vote, it racks up pretty well with the ALP and Greens. And I've got no doubt they'll go even further ahead if Albo keeps going. So they might get some clear air once Angus Taylor gets rid of Lay. God help him if Lay gets up. I mean, if Susan Lay stays in the moderates reign supreme, because that's what it'll mean, then the Liberal Party is in massive trouble. Massive trouble. They're already in massive trouble. But I mean, when I say massive trouble, I mean extinction level event, massive trouble. West Australian Liberal trouble. Tomorrow's it. There's talk today that Angus Taylor might screw it up and then Hastie will challenge him. What, another leadership challenge before the next election? 2 years seems a long way away. It's not a long way away. You can't have another leadership challenge, I don't think, after this one and retain credibility. You're just gone. Mind you could see today what Labor were going to hammer both him and Jane Hume on. Oh, my God. They were ripping into Angus Taylor like you wouldn't believe. He better be the strongest opposition leader you've ever seen, and he needs to be on the front foot from day one. He needs to come out swinging from day one. Albo and the ALP will eat him alive if he doesn't. He can't put a foot wrong. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be entertaining. But if they don't resolve it, this is what's going to happen. One Nation will keep surging, which I think will happen. They will win more seats than the LNP at the next election. They will become the opposition party in Australia. And then all the support you get, the staff, the rorts, all that extra money, that will go to the One Nation and LNP. That is when LNP go into extinction, because everything they're used to getting from being a major party will disappear, and that will go to One Nation. LNP's in a world of trouble then. So they don't get it right tomorrow, I think they're screwed entirely. And I don't think many of us will be shedding a tear, to be honest. But it'll be interesting, what, and a bit of entertainment. We got a comment. Oh, here he is. Hey, g'day, Bob. Just got home. See you soon. Okay, mate. I've got to keep talking for a bit. So this will be entertaining. Actually, I'll tell you what I've got to do is put my heater on because... Oh, it's not on. Hold on, guys. Where's my heater? I haven't got it plugged in. It is Melbourne in summer and it is absolutely freezing. I got up this morning and stupidly put my shorts on and haven't had much time to help myself, just putting my heater on. There we go. And it's so cold. Ben's lucky. I think he's in the Gold Coast. We'll see. At least he resides there most of the time. Don't know whether he'll still be there, but he'll be on soon. So, so that's pretty much it from me. Hopefully, Ben, we'll probably recover ground on a bit of this. Ben's always good for a chat. And he's a Zoomer, I'm a Boomer, so I like engaging with the younger ones. Only he might set me straight on a few things. I might set him straight, or we might just have an interesting conversation about two different approaches. I think we agree on far more than we disagree with, which is unusual in Australia. So it'll be interesting to get his feedback on what he thinks on a few of these. I've got a funny idea what he might do, might say or think, but we'll wait till he gets out there. So while we're waiting for Ben, let's have a look at X and see what's making news. I do have one thing I do want to show you. How's this for insane? American politics is crazy. I used to always want to go to America. I'm not too sure anymore. I just think they're all nuts. Let me go to my bookmark. Listen to this. I don't know whether you know. I think her name's Abby Phillips. This is just insane. They're talking about the American Congress, the version of the American Parliament, has just passed a new law about voter ID. I think you should have to produce ID. I think we should have to do it in Australia. You get marked off your roll, but I think you should produce ID to make sure your elections aren't corrupt. So pretty straightforward. Listen to the insanity of some of these commentators.
He is actually championing a bill that actually would take voting rights away from a lot of black people in this country.
Wait, what voting rights is he taking away from black voters?
Oh, if we look at
the SAVE Act?
The SAVE Act, that's exactly what we're talking about. That is actually going to continue to disenfranchise overwhelmingly a lot of people of color. There are so many civil rights organizations that have run the data. If we look at the way that it is going to disenfranchise black voters, it's the same reason why Chuck Schumer called it Jim Crow 2.0.
So,
this is the same president. If we want to continue...
You haven't said how yet.
I am talking about it. It's the way that you're putting new poll taxes on this when you're making people have... That's what we can call them now. It's kind of an idiom, right? If you want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens, that they have to prove with a voter ID, the reality is you're layering what is a constitutional right for the American people and making it harder for people to vote in this country, and it's going to disenfranchise black voters.
Concern you that you're making all these claims? You've yet to lay out how it's hurting anyone, but 76% of black voters think we should show an ID to vote. 80% of Hispanic voters, 83% of the American people. Are you saying that black voters
the SAVE Act
isn't
exactly what she's saying?
The SAVE Act isn't just about.
Sounds pretty condescending.
Then they deny it.
The SAVE Act is not just about IDs.
That is not
who want voter ID.
But to be clear, the SAVE Act is not just about IDs. The SAVE Act is about proof of citizenship.
So what?
This woman's so annoying.
It also makes it very hard for married women who've changed
I was just going to say, we talked about this before. It's not. It actually, there's an argument to be made that red state voters, women, poor white voters could be just as...
Poor white voters can't register.
That's the thing.
Nobody
Isn't that racism?
Hold on, Scott. No, please don't. No, you listen.
There's the deflection from talking about Donald Trump's racism.
I'm actually
there.
You should be thinking about your constituents or your
I think they're smart enough to figure out how to register to vote.
Hold on. Most Americans don't have a passport. Many Americans don't have access to their birth certificate. Many women, a majority of women who change their names for marriage have to provide additional proof that they've changed their names in order to register to vote.
I have heard Democrats make these same arguments.
Why don't you actually respond to the substance of what I'm saying?
I am, and
as
the substance
opposed
is
to
this.
making this about something that it's not.
It's
not just about voter ID.
married women.
All she ever does is just keep talking.
And rural people are too stupid to figure out how to register to vote.
That's not what
Democrats are making this argument.
Oh, Jennings is so wrong.
Are you saying they can't figure out how to vote?
Let me offer the proof.
Are you saying they can't figure out how to vote?
Exact same argument.
It is a fact that a majority of Americans do not have passports. Many Americans, including white people, do not have their original birth certificate or access.
I
would love to offer the proof of this.
Yeah, because that is also relevant. It doesn't matter to me where people live.
I guess I have a little more faith in
do they have
rural
access?
America and married women than you.
Look, I don't know why you think why you're making this about whether you're smart or not.
You're saying that they can't vote, that they can't figure out how to document to register to vote?
Access to documentation of proof of where you were born or proof of citizenship is an additional thing that people
because at one point
black
people actually weren't even allowed.
It's a barrier.
It is a barrier.
Amazing. What a load of nonsense. So they're trying to say that what Scott Jennings is saying is they're right. You've got three black people saying the black people in America can't figure out how to register to vote. That's like saying you can't figure out how to go get your driver's license. It's insane. The left are insane. So let's see what else we've got here on our Twitter feed. I haven't done a lot putting into apparently this photo really does summarize Roman Catholic. This is what I'm talking about. I've already had a crack with this guy because this guy's praying. I think it's to Mary. I don't even know what he's trying to say. Blasphemy. Jesus accomplished for us at a great cost is an understatement. What an embarrassment to the church and to the tradition as a Jesus took our place, making a way for us all to. God the Pope would rather be photographed praying to a statue that allegedly depicts an apparition. I don't get this Protestant thing with Mary. I mean, they try and argue. This is interesting. They try and argue. We'll come back to that. Amanda Stowe. Joanna here. She's got an interesting way about it, but Joanna's very, very effective. So Protestants try and argue that Catholics engage in idolatry when they revere Mary. Mary was the mother of God. If you believe in Christianity, if you believe in Catholicism, that means she had the Son of God in her womb for 9 months. She had to care for the Son of God, feed the Son of God, comfort the Son of God, provide the appropriate love for the Son of God. Of course, she was a holy person. I mean, having the Son of God in your womb would be in itself a miracle, but you've got the DNA of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. It's just nuts. Of course, she should be revered. Why do they have an issue with that? I just don't understand that. And then there are the miracles that Catholics believe in, where Mary came down on this planet, appeared to the what's the name of the country near Spain? Oh my God, Portugal, the Portugal kids. And that was witnessed by 70,000 people. So, there's a lot of documentation on Mary having a very special place in heaven, as she rightly should. She's the mother of God. She's the mother of the Son of God. So I think she's pretty important. So I don't see why a Protestant would have a big issue with thing. Let's see what Joanna's saying. She does a lot of good work, Joanna. I'll tell you what, she is persistent woman.
For themselves.
This honestly makes me furious.
It's something that motivated a big part of my parliamentary service. The measure of a society is how it treats those people who can't stand up for and who can't speak for themselves.
This honestly makes me furious. This is Amanda Stoker, who for years has paraded the pro-life brand, speaking not just once, but at multiple pro-life marches. What an absolute hypocrite. Because what she did, not once but twice, is to support David Crisafulli's ban on talking about abortion or legislating on abortion in the parliament. She says the measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable. Well, there's no one more vulnerable than a baby in the womb, and she completely threw them under the bus. The evil in the heart of these so-called Christians who will step on anyone and anything to further up the greasy pole and to become premier. Well, this is my message to you, Amanda Stoker. The first time around, we put it down to a mistake. The second time around, it's you being complicit with evil. And instead of sending a completely disingenuous email to the people in your electorate, covering up what you did and pretending like it was in the best interest of the babies, you need to come clean and apologise, or we're going full scorched earth and you will never be premier. There's nothing worse than a Judas, and that's what you are.
I told you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side. Still waiting for Ben to get on board. I'll double check my come on, Ben. He's still not quite there. We're doing our best to hang on for you, Ben. Let's have a look. Let's see what the latest thing's all about. So show might be too late for the Matt will be a happy guy because Susan Lay's about to lose, I think. He'll be devastated tomorrow. That puts in too long a post. I write long posts, but I tried not to do it too often. Probably I can do. So I'm getting so many Protestants. What do we got here? Bunch of pretentious brats chant, "Your children hate you" at cops during a support. Yeah, the pro-Palestinian mob. They're vile people, really. Seriously. I said this week, I actually meant it. Get out the water cannons, give them a shower. They need it. Seriously. So, love them or hate them, the cops are just doing their job. That's just ridiculous. Who are we trying to fracture? Spoken enough about that. New South Wales says people might not be happy with how protests were handled on Monday, but it's just the government did. Yeah, I agree with him. Far more people are dying in Nigeria than in Palestine. Let's have a listen to this, because I think this could be right.
I mean, there are more people that love the world and you want to see a better world. Your interest is not just free Palestine. I mean, there are more people dying in Nigeria than are dying in Palestine. I can tell you that last year alone, over 500,000 Christians were killed in Nigeria just in 1 year. And nobody's protesting. The activists are not saying anything. For me, that's hypocrisy.
Absolutely.
In the north of Nigeria, Christians are being killed daily because the Islamic militants don't want Christians to exist in the north of Nigeria. They want to see a world where there are no Christians at all. And they want to conquer not just Nigeria, they want to conquer Africa, they want to conquer Europe, and they want to conquer America. The younger generation who want to live in a better world must speak out today. And I'm calling on all advocates of a free world to love the world.
He is 100% spot on. And sadly, too many people over here and in Western society, I just don't think we treat it with the importance we need to be treating it. You know, where are the protests? Where are the protests for the massacre of Nigerians? Where are the protests for the massacre of Iranian citizens who, protested their government? You know, the pro-Palestinian mob can get out there every day of every week, and the media just encourage them. You know, if they didn't cover it as much, and they should be bored of it as much as the rest of us, you wouldn't get it. But the fact that they don't only protest one conflict tells you all you need to know. I mean, I'm not a big supporter of, the Ukraine war. And on the Ukraine side, I think that's just been a disaster from day one. But they don't protest at the Russian embassy about their invasion of Ukraine. So the hypocrisy is next level. It's crazy. So this guy's got 100% a valid point. 100%. So anyway, let's see what else we've got. I'm still waiting for Ben. Stick with us, guys. I'm sure we'll have a great conversation when Ben goes on. Problem is, he's worse than me. He likes to chat. But I can't be up too late. So, Ben, you better hurry up, mate. Let's see what else is on board. This is the girl that was, she's the recent Catholic. What's going on here? The Great Myth, he spoke very well. I've never listened to Seth Dillon except in this hearing. The Great Myth is that criticizing Jews Israel is not allowed. In reality, it's a shortcut to success. That's very true. With a large and fast-growing audience, especially if you take it well beyond mere criticism and start spewing hate. Well, Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are living proof of that. Pre-Jean Hezbollah gained over 60,000 followers in 24 hours, including Megyn Kelly. Wow. All she had to do was go after Jews in Israel. Well, that's actually very true. Megyn Kelly, what a hypocrite. Anyway, after this, I will definitely be called an anti-Semite. Hey, everyone, and the mother is apparently anti-Semitic today. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised if I end up in that club. Still, this information is interesting. This is a former priest of the Episcopal Church. They call him a conspiracy theorist, but what he says here is actually very similar to what I've heard Eastern Orthodox. Can't wait for comments. I'm sure they won't disappoint. As for anti-Semitism, okay, just over it. Liberal Senator Paul Scar. Here we go. This is Ben sharing a post. Let's have a listen. Twist himself. Let's have a look. Angus Young? You mean Angus Taylor, mate? I think.
We seem to be in this intense period where people are expecting change and results in very short periods of time. And unless they receive that immediate satisfaction, gratification, then they want to change to someone else. And I think people need to be given a fair go. People need to be given an opportunity to prove themselves, and they deserve the benefit of support from their team as they're engaging in a difficult process. And there is no more difficult job than being an opposition leader. Our political opponents will brutally weaponise this, and I expect them to brutally weaponise this. Just as they launched an extremely effective negative campaign against Peter Dutton, they will brutally weaponise this, and the party and its supporters should be expecting that. It's up to all of us, whatever happens tomorrow, to be united, present a united front, and that's certainly something I'm committed to doing. As if I'm on the front bench, the back bench, or a park bench. It doesn't matter. It's not about me. We seem to be in this intense period where...
Yeah, I've listened to that guy a few times. Don't like him. He's just another silly moderate in the Liberal Party. Ben, where are you, buddy? Oh, he's here. Hello, Ben. Hold on, we'll get him on. Ben, how are you, mate?
Hello, Bob. Have you got me loud and clear, mate?
I was getting worried. Hold on.
You said 8 p.m. You said 8 p.m. It's just gone.
Oh, you're in Queensland. 8 p.m. Melbourne time.
Okay, sorry, mate.
No. No, I've been doing it. I sort of know. Let me get rid of this screen. That's
keep
funny.
The talking points up there. Keep the talking points up on the screen. That's really good. That's better. You can scroll through all the stories and then you've got it, mate.
Well, I did
listen for the last 15 minutes of you having a chat as well and pulling your hair out about what's actually happening. So I kind of understand where you're coming from in that sense. So, mate, I called him Angus Young because he wants to be the rock star. But really, is he Angus Young or is he Angus Taylor? It makes no difference. He's a
mate.
So Hasty had better name recognition every day of the week. So that's where it was at with that, I guess.
Mate, we'll get back into that feed later, mate. We got you on here to have a chat too, which is important. I just find that whole Liberal thing, it's going to be entertaining, mate. I've been listening to, I'll tell you why they haven't learned a thing. They put up names for the deputy leader, and this is the media, actually. It could be then. We'll find out more tomorrow. But they've got to have a female deputy leader because they're axing. I'm going. That's just DEI bullshit. Just put your best person in the job. And as soon as they were talking this, and they were talking about the moderates they were going to put in there, Jane Hume, Tim Wilson, Zoe McKenzie. I don't know whether you've listened to them. All bloody moderates through and through. And I thought, you guys aren't listening. People aren't coming back if you do that. So I don't think they're coming back anyway, but it's just good value entertainment. And I was a person that right up until, sorry.
No, go ahead, continue.
I was going to say, I was one of those people that right up till Abbott, until Turnbull knifed Abbott, I was pretty much, except for the odd occasion, a religious Liberal voter. But I haven't voted them for, since Tony Abbott once. What was that, 2007? So it's going into its second decade now. And I don't see myself voting for him at the next one. So, mate, I don't know. It's been bizarre. I thought they would have learnt, from the West Australian state election where they just got wiped out. I thought they would have learned from that. But no, they're just going down the same path. So it's sad, but anyway, it's sad and it's amusing.
That's why it's interesting what Paul Carr said there, because he said, look, everyone expects all of these things. They expect us to change, but we're in fact not going to change. You've just got to bear with us. We'll get it right eventually. And people are saying, get the hell out of here, mate. You've got no idea. That's not what's going to happen. He didn't want to be
definition? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and again and not changing. We'll be in the same. I was on one of the shows before. They were talking about, I think it was Andrew Clennell, who's sometimes good, sometimes annoying. But he was saying he's a big Hasty fan, right? And in many ways, I would agree with him because Taylor comes across as being rather boring. I don't see him inspiring a lot of people. But what he's saying is he doesn't think Taylor will last. And at some point, Hasty will challenge him and take over the leadership. I'm going, so another leadership change? You've only got 2 years before the next election, which is not a long time. So if there's another leadership change, they're just dead in the water. They have to get it right tomorrow. If they don't get it right tomorrow, and I don't think they're going to, there's no coming back. One Nation just keeps going. And I think what a lot of even these media commentators don't get or they refuse to acknowledge, if it keeps going the way it is, One Nation will keep getting momentum. They will win more seats than the Liberals the next election. They'll become the official opposition. And at that point, the Liberal Party lose all their benefits of being an opposition. They lose the extra staff, the funding, all that sort of thing. It will go. At that point, they're dead in the water. So unless they get it right tomorrow, and I'm not phased, I don't care. I hope that happens. I hope One Nation keeps going, and I hope there's a lot of good people join their ranks, and I hope we can get a bit more common sense in there. If Angus Taylor can pull off a miracle and drag them back to the Liberals where their parties are going that way. The thing that concerned me this week was Malcolm Turnbull lurking around in the corridors of Parliament. You know, I got a funny idea where that's going. If Taylor gets...
Tell me about that funny idea. Before you move on, tell me about that funny idea with Malcolm Turnbull. Because Alex Hawke has obviously been manning the phones this evening, and he's been trying to build coalition behind the scenes. So the faction is there. They never went anywhere.
Well, my idea with... it would not surprise me if that the Liberals split and Turnbull takes all the moderate Liberals with the Teals. And Turnbull and Holmes of Court will fund it. And I'll go another step further. I reckon Turnbull will try and make a comeback and become leader of a new left moderate party because he hates this. John Howard, and I was a big fan of John Howard, and in many ways there's still a lot of good things John Howard did, but the one thing I'll never ever forgive him for when he convinced Turnbull to stay in the Liberal Party. He did, with that one conversation, he destroyed the Liberal Party as we knew it. It was a force for good. It hasn't been a force for good for a long time. And he left a man in there that just had a nefarious agenda. And it's never been the same ever since. It was interesting. I'm very big on conviction politics, right? Don't waver. So it's one thing I love about Hanson. She has her critics. Doesn't matter who goes up and puts their hand up, you're going to have your critics, right? But for all the critics, I mean, she's stood the test of time and been there. And for me, that's a really big, important thing. And again, she could have been part of the Liberal Party, but Howard cast her aside. So on two fronts, he took Turnbull to stay in there, and a person who's got more conservative values and blood running through her veins, he kicked out of the party. Little Johnny, you got a bit to answer for, son. So anyway, it's all come full circle now, isn't it?
Well,
what are your thoughts?
Crazy. Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy, the entire situation, because Angus is going to make himself out to be something that he has been unable to demonstrate up until this point. Otherwise, he would have already been there. Because Susan wasn't the first choice. They just thought that after Turnbull was gone, see you later, Charlie, she was the best choice, and she wore the pink power suit, and they hoped the feminism could get her over the edge. And obviously it didn't, which is why now the left is just loving it, saying your first female leader and you're throwing her overboard. You see, it is the party of the misogynist, and those arguments have already been made on television by the leftists. And Patricia
Did you see Questions Time today?
I did. I saw parts of it, absolutely. So we can get to all of that, but yeah, there's a level of hysteria there surrounding him, wherein that they want everyone to come on out and unify behind him. They want Susan to lose 98-2, basically. They don't want it to come out and looks like it was close. No, they want this to be a massacre, because a massacre actually makes it look like the best thing. Because Susan's, and in fact, Susan should just make the call in the morning and say, guys, I'm not coming in. I slept and I've woken up, and it doesn't need to happen. She just retires.
And you know what? She'd get a lot of credibility for doing that, because she's putting the country first. I don't even know, and she's not the first politician. There's a bunch of people get in this situation where they know they're just dead in the water. It goes on all the time. I just don't understand why people in her position cling on. I mean, what do you in front of the whole country? You're clinging on to something. Everyone in the country knows you're gone. And even if you win by some miracle tomorrow, you're not going to become Prime Minister. What are you hoping to achieve? You're not going to be kicking out Alba. What you're going to be doing is overseeing the death of the party you say you've got this love for. So if it's in the best interest, and just step aside, like you say. Give someone else a crack. If I'm coaching or captaining you see this in cricket teams, football teams. If I'm coaching a team that is just getting slaughtered, there's been plenty of instances where the coach goes, I'll step down. The most, I'll give you one, Ian Botham in the UK, when Australia smashed him in the first two tests when he's captain, said, I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing the right thing. I need to step back, concentrate my cricket, give it to someone else. What did Botham do the next 2-3 tests? Slaughtered us, and he did the right thing by his team. And you don't have to be the leader to be a performer. Not everyone's built to lead. I don't think Angus Taylor will be interesting. He's going to have to, whoever got that job, they're going to have to come out swinging from day one, and they can't put a foot wrong. Can't put a foot wrong. And on top of that, they've got to revolutionise the back part of the party, till you get it right. So all I can say, whoever gets the job tomorrow, whoever the hell it is, good luck.
Okay, so the only thing he has to do is make Albanese look worse than what he's already makes himself look, and whilst doing that, not make himself look bad. And by achieving that, he is a pleasant surprise to the Australians, who are now going to see a lot more of him, because we haven't seen a lot of him. But the only way he can do this is to seriously get on the front foot. And he has to start surprising people.
It's the hard part about being an opposition leader. You've got to come out and you've got to be negative if you want to win government. You've got to try and tear down the other mob. That's just part. That's why Tony Abbott was so. He was brilliant at it. And you've got to do things that might, across the media and all that, come across as unpopular. So, for example, we're talking about question time today. You see their line of attack now. Well, the line of attack back is, if I was in his position, I would highlight the fact that, if you're going to come at me about my DNA and whether I've got a ball sack or not, I thought we lived in a generation where the ALP couldn't identify what a woman is. So how can if an LNP MP said the same things about a female MP on the Labor side, the media and everyone would slaughter him. Yet the ALP just cruise in, and they start having to go a guy because he's, what was it? Tanya Plebiscite come out and said it. Because you got two testicles, basically. You're an arsehole. They're going to come at him because he's a man. Now, what do they always say about social media harm? Do they understand how many men in society are taking their own lives because for 2 decades they've been told that men are inferior? And yet here you have a senior minister in the ALP government coming out and saying men are inferior, women are so much better. You had Catherine King summon, hey, look at us, we've got more women than men. We are such a superior political organisation. Well, there is never any pushback about protecting men and promoting men. If I was Angus Taylor, I would embrace that, and I would push back really hard, and I would use male suicide as the point to push back hard on it. And you could then say, are you denigrating men? What do they call it? You got misogyny for men denigrating women. There's another one denigrating men. That's the avenue I'd take, and play their own game at them. So it'll be interesting, but you got to have some real, pardon me, you got to have some real balls to do that. I don't know whether Angus Taylor's got it. In fact, I don't know whether there's anyone in the Liberal Party that does. Not even Hasty. I just don't. Do you know of anyone that you would think you would back that has that sort of monk in the Liberal Party race?
Well, have you just convinced yourself that the Liberal Party now understands it has to take an adversarial direction, and it has to get a little bit wild, and it doesn't have to toe the line?
Mate, I didn't convince you.
Of course not. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I've been screaming out from the go this way for years. That's why, for example, for me, Scott Morrison and Peter Dutton were a disappointment. I thought they had some scope to do that. And like Dutton last election, that debate he had where he said, I don't even have Trump's number or some bullshit, he made Albo look good. I'm going, go for his bloody jugular. Stop trying to be a statesman. Classic example, look at Trump. Does he give a shit what he says about people? No, he'll tell you a new asshole. And it's working. And I've got no doubt if you had someone like a Trump that was ruthless over here, the media polls would go against him. But in those rooms, in your bedrooms, at work, there's people are going to be quietly going, fuck, I love him. He's my man. That's what we're saying about Hanson. We love Hanson. Even Joyce, he's been let free of the reins. And did you see that interview between Joyce and Stefanovic, Karl Stefanovic, I'll say his name wrong, where he talked about immigration? He just hit every single point. You couldn't say that in the Liberal Party. Amazingly, today there was a revelation that they've had their immigration policy ready to go for like weeks. But Susan Ley said, no, we've got to hold in. I'm going, you're getting slaughtered. You're getting slaughtered by One Nation on immigration, and you won't come out with the policies. Who's advising you people? But anyway.
They've been losing, allegedly they've been losing around 200,000 a month. So
yeah,
they've been bleeding badly, and they haven't been able to stop the bleeding. And now it's culminated in this. Remember, this was all meant to be over, done and dusted when they settled the dispute with the Nationals, with Little Proud. How many days ago was that, Bob?
What?
After they lost a few, then won a few back, and Susan said, screw you, it's my way or the highway. And then, they broke bread. Or who knows what, got pissed.
There's so many stupid things they've done. First, when the Nationals split with them the first time, they should have stayed split. Then they got back together. And to her credit, I thought Susan Ley handled all the Bondi thing really well. At one point, Albo was getting slaughtered. She made one crucial, bloody, stupid mistake when she got in bed with the hate speech laws. If she had have actually done what the Nationals wanted and said, no, we're opposing these, she wouldn't be in the position she's in today. I think she actually could have turned around. The moment the Liberals got in bed with those hate speech laws, they lost everybody. And who'd they blame? The Nationals. Now, but then the Nationals, and this is what's got me shaking my head, they did the right thing. They split. They split on the value we cannot support these hate speech laws, but then they jump back into bed with them, even though there's no commitment to real appealing the hate speech laws. And I'm going, what I was saying before, conviction politics. If you're against hate speech laws, how can you go back to a party that supports hate speech laws? How do you do that? If you're in the Nationals, I tell you how the Nationals could have saved themselves. Picked up the phone, Pauline, when can we get together for a coffee? That's what the Nationals should have done. The biggest spanner in the work. Look, the only thing I see that's a bit of a problem for One Nation tomorrow, One Nation needs some individuals with credibility. It's good that they've got Barnaby Joyce. It's good they've got Bernardi. I think they were banking on a few defecting from the LNP across to their ranks. But if you get a Conservative, and if he does a half-decent job like Taylor, a lot of those that were thinking about jumping may not jump. And I think that's a problem for One Nation because they need some credibility within their ranks with some decent Conservative politics who, when they go and say, we are a legitimate alternative, they've got people with some experience of being in government, around government, know what they're doing. Who knows? It's going to be very entertaining. But I don't really even give a rat's ass if they don't get it. Because I'll still vote for them and let them learn on the job. 3 years. We couldn't be doing any worse. But there's going to be a lot of voters that won't embrace them unless they have that, I think. But I hope I'm wrong. I don't know. It could go anywhere, mate. This could be the most entertaining 2 years of politics we've ever seen. Here's a question for you.
Wait. Just one second. Do we want to see a standoff? Would we like to see a standoff tomorrow morning? They can't resolve it, so they have to come out. Then they'll have to go back in there, and someone is going to have to fall on their sword, and they won't name who that individual is. But just for the sensationalist aspect of it, do we want it to be everything anyway? Do we want it to explode in a way there tomorrow morning? Because the ABC is covering it live from 8:30. So they're ready to go with their attack dogs, and you best believe that the editors have already
they'll go hard.
Questions. And I think a couple of Labor people will be standing there off to the side just watching it as well, just having a bit of fun, looking from afar. Absolutely.
Whatever happens tomorrow, whoever wins, whoever doesn't win, or whatever, the media is going to be ready to eat them alive straight away. I mean, and that's what I meant before. If Angus Taylor wins, he's got to come out swinging. If Susan Ley wins, she's a dead duck. She's not a dead man walking. She's a dead woman walking. I'll practice the DEI. It'll be just another waste of 6 months. I don't particularly care, but if you're talking about what's good for the country, Lay's got to go. Angus Taylor's got to win. The actual guy I'm surprised they're not talking about, and I would have pushed if I was in there, I would have pushed Peterson. Every time I hear him, he actually impresses me. He speaks well. He's knowledgeable. He was the one who gave that stat a little bit today about how many people they're losing. Every time he speaks, I've found him impressive. I'm not too sure I trust him a lot, but if I was going to pick anyone out of the miserable lot they've got, I'd have him. It's a disappointing Jacinta Price, I think, shot herself in the foot a little bit with the HB laws. She was riding high after the referendum. I tell you, if you're being a smart strategist, all right, take everything else out of it, because I don't think they've got that Tony Abbott type rural mongrel politician or the Jeff Kennett at his best type. He's not that anymore. But if you're just going to be a strategist, who would hurt them in the polling numbers in the what do they call them? The groups, the talk groups. What do they call them? Anyway,
the polling groups for them.
No, what do they call those? They get a group of people and they get
Special
their opinion.
interest groups or whatever as well.
No, there's another group. They do it all the time. And anyway, I'll think of it soon. But if you wanted to get someone where you could hurt the ALP own issues, one politician in the LNP ticks that box. Can you guess who it is?
One politician from the Liberal and Labor, or just one from each?
From the Liberals. I think she'd be a nightmare for that. Hey, Jacinta Price. Indigenous, female, conservative. How do they attack her? Are they going to attack her about... Every time they attack her, they're attacking a female, they're attacking an Aboriginal.
Yep.
Good luck, ALP. Even if she was just a figure, that would be the one person. If I'm in the ALP camp, I'm going, God, I hope they don't put her. I can't believe they're not talking about her as the deputy to Angus Taylor, which she was last time.
She doesn't want it.
What?
Yeah. She's already said on the public record a couple of days ago that no, she's not seeking that. But they all say that. None of them have the aspiration of taking it. They don't know if they're going to run. They haven't come to that determination yet, etc. So that's where she stands. But yet you're not wrong. She needs to do that. But you're also you discount the fact that the leftist media absolutely does not give a damn that she's an Indigenous woman. So therefore should be afforded some type of decency in regards to their questioning to her, or treating her with some type of esteem because she's an Indigenous woman that's risen to that exalted position of where she is in government. But instead, they don't care. They say she's an Uncle Tom. They say she's a white man with a black woman exterior. You know, they call her everything but, and they get away with it, Bob. And this is very unfortunate. So she has to call it out, and she should name individuals, and she should have her phone. So when she's doing the press conferences, she needs to be live streaming the journalists back to her audience who are asking these questions. And then everyone in Australia can know who is instigating this line of questioning, and therefore then go to them and say, why are you doing this? Why didn't you ask this question instead of that question?
That's actually a really good idea.
It's about time they start doing that, because they cover the media just as the media covers them. That's the only way they can flip the script.
No, I actually think that you should suggest that to a few people. I think that's actually a really smart idea. And actually, again, going back to my favourite guy, old Trumpy, he sort of does it. He does it without a camera, because he just I don't know. Did you see that one when he had a crack at Caitlin Collins and you were just awful. You were the your news agent, and everyone loses their shit over it.
Yeah, of course, of course.
The people out there in the real world, though,
they love it. They eat it up.
Yeah,
damn right, they eat it up.
And that's where I think Jacinta Price. I agree with you, the left would go, but I don't think it'd have an impact. And Pauline Hanson is sort of in that boat. They come for her, but most people out there that support, they couldn't give a shit. They'd go Pauline. And I think Barnaby's got that chance a little bit. It was interesting. I was there was a post with, I don't know what you think of him, Topher Field, and I'm not a fan, but he came out and
why not?
I think he's more about Topher than anything else. Mate, I don't have shirts or books or videos here. I'm not pushing myself as I'm just a normal Joe. I like talking politics. I don't want to tell you how you should think about your politics. I'm happy to talk to you about it. We all evolve and develop our own rate, but, Topher's got this thing where he's got to guide you through the political thing. I don't need your guidance, Topher, number one. And number two, I think his marbles videos and he's put the majors last has contributed us to having the ALP government, because the one thing the ALP voters and the Greens will never, ever do is put themselves last. So straight away, you're at a disadvantage in our stupid preference system. And I think that played a big role in Albo getting in the first time. I think it played a role last time. So I think he's given out bad strategic advice. And he'll have a crack at me because I always, apparently, I'm trying to ride his back at popularity, which I couldn't give two shits about. So he thinks by me criticising him, I'm trying to get clicks. I'm going, really? Seriously? Anyway, and on the one this week that really pissed me off, he's come out.
Someone different. You should pick someone much larger if you want to get clicks by being a hate watcher of
I don't think I'm doing a good job of it. But the one he said this week that really pissed me off is he's come out and One Nation are rocketing. It's the first time we've had an alternative party come from nowhere to give us a real option. You know, we've been screaming for this. Don't rock the boat. Clive Palmer's rocking the boat. He's going to stand account. Just fuck off, you fat prick. Pardon my French. You know, just get out of the way and give him a clear run at this. Give us a chance to have a legitimate party that's not a major party that's going to represent our voice in Parliament. We've been screaming. You don't have to agree with everything that One Nation's thinking, but we need to have that voice in Parliament. Give him a clear run. Topher's opinion on was it, well, Pauline can't articulate this, and neither can Barnaby. They're not ideal leaders. They need to recruit someone else. And I'm going, fuck off, Topher. The woman's been in there taking every arrow for 30 years. She's flying in the polls. She deserves some respect, and she should be the bloody leader if she wants it. There's no backstabbing on her. I mean, good on her. This is where I like a conviction politician. She's stood the test of time. She's taken all the shit. I agree she's not the best talker. There's times there she annoys the crap out of me, but she's the one that's been at the furnace fighting on our behalf for 30 freaking years. I don't care whether she speaks that well. I can trust Pauline. I can't trust Angus Taylor. I can't trust Albo. I can't trust any of these arsehole politicians. Pauline might not be perfect, but you know what? When Pauline gets into Parliament, Pauline Hanson is Pauline Hanson. And, you know, I can live with that. So I'm just sick of all this DI bullshit, and you got to be this statesman, you got to be this. We get sucked in for it by the media. They, you know, who was it the other day that was having a crack at some people because they weren't university educated? You know, we're too dumb to understand politics because we don't have a bit of paper on the wall or some shit.
Well,
it just drives me insane.
Costamaris likes going there, but several of them do. What they say is they say, look, yeah, One Nation has support, but that support is made up of people who, in large part, are not university graduates, and therefore they're dullards, and therefore they're rednecks, and therefore forget about them, and they're backward, and they're just not in the real world.
We're deplorable.
Women back in the et cetera, et cetera. So you can list the litany. So there's one thing on my page, if you'd like to pull it up, Bob. It's Julian Hill making some remarks to Patricia Cavalis this afternoon on Afternoon Briefing. And he is speaking about what he refers to as a moral imperative to stop One Nation and Pauline Hanson because they are extremist right-wing. Yeah,
Julian Hill.
Page. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just get that part of it. I'm just trying to view profile. Mate,
Multicultural Affairs underboss. Oh, I can flick it to you as a matter of fact.
Julian Hill. I know. Just getting you up now, mate.
Yeah.
It's going a bit slow. Julian Hill, he's a prick of a man. He's the MP for here I got it. He's the MP from the electorate next to me down at Greater Dandenong.
Well, everyone thought he was a Green, and then other people thought he was a homosexual. I'm unsure of both of those. I thought he's just an MP for Labor. But yeah, he said some things to her, whereas he said the Labor Party.
Oh, we don't have that. Hold on, mate. Sorry. Why is it?
You're right.
Keep going, buddy. I'll pause it. I've got it. It's not sharing. I'll fix it. Say.
Yeah. He tells Patricia Cavalis that the Labor Party and the Prime Minister, and by extension him and everyone else, has a moral imperative to stop One Nation because they are a right-wing extremist party who is only about violence, hate, division, And what was the other thing he said? Chaos. So violent hate, division, and chaos. That's who One Nation is. They are extremist and they have to be stopped. And he said
where do you think that's leading to?
Well, it's leading to categorizing certain people no differently than other people being categorized because of the rhetoric they espouse, and because of, more importantly, because of the views they hold. And this all is, of course, circling above certain conversations that many in the country expect the political parties to start having. But of course, they are reluctant to do so, and therefore it's One Nation's job to do that. And let's see. But yeah, if you play the clip, I think his words speak for themselves.
I've got a theory on that. I'll come back to you with it once we've listened to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here we go. Bloody time.
You just have to make sure it's unmuted.
Yeah, that's not hubris. That's an objective fact when you look across. But the final thing I'll just say, and it goes to, I know, work you've been doing, deep, thoughtful journalism. For my community, but for millions of Australians, one of the worst aspects of this chaos is the space that it's creating for the normalisation of extremist right-wing politics, Pauline Hanson, One Nation and that brigade. When Australians turn on their TV and look at the chaos and the division and at times now violence and hate in parts of the Americas or Europe, they don't want that here. And that's what One Nation and that kind of extremist politics wants to bring and threatens to import, and it is seducing people into with funny memes on social media. The coalition have to get their act together. The collapse of the centre, the complete clown show circuit.
He's a wanker, mate.
So he went off on about a 5-minute tirade. As a matter of fact, he was filling in for someone who was meant to be on that panel. So it was himself, Patricia Cavalos, and opposed to him on the other side was Allegra Spender. So they were there discussing Herzog and all these other things.
That's a balanced panel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite amazing. But prior to them getting into the Herzog conversation, they both outlined their dismay at the rise of One Nation, and particularly the people that are supportive of some of the things that have been said, because they find that un-Australian, and they prefer if certain laws are utilised to be able to crack down on those people. Because this is a multicultural society, Bob, and nothing's changing, and no one's going home, and in fact, more people are coming. And that's the way it's going to be, and Australians are just going to have to get on board with that. You know, that's where the argument is at. And if they try to typecast One Nation as extremist right-wing, and you heard him say there, he did make a direct link. He said EU politics, he's talking right-wing politics in the EU, and Trump, MAGA, they're always been warning about that forever. Remember, Dutton was going to implement MAGA here, so it's all bullshit. But nevertheless, they say it, and they're morons out there. They buy it, hook, line, and sinker, and they package it and they use it, and it's a wrap-up smear, and they deliver it through the media, and let's see if it sticks.
I think it's
not.
I think it's worse than that.
Go ahead.
Okay. In the last poll, One Nation are only 2 points behind ALP. I think the ALP and ALBO are shitting their pants about One Nation. What have we just introduced that could see One Nation banned from elections? Hate speech laws.
Yeah, of course.
How do you get banned? Because they label you as an extremist group. What did NSN just do? Disband it. They have the power now, and this is where the Liberals were so stupid. They have a power now to say, no, they're extremists, they spread hate, they're divisive, they're pretty much a terrorist group, we're going to ban them. Now, my vision's not that good. So there's no doubt in my mind that they will consider pulling that trigger. If One Nation threatened them for government, why wouldn't you? You've just been you've been presented yourself with the biggest gift politically you can ever do. We ban them, they can't stand. The only people we've got to beat are the Liberals, which is a rabble. Let's do it. Now, the problem is that you go down that road, you're going to forever split Australia in a big, big way. So, no, I know they don't care.
What if they do not care? Is the question? Sorry, that's
what
if they do not care?
Well, then
what if they are intending on doing that, believing that through a one-party state, and many of their most vocal supporters are always telling me when I ask them what's the solution, they say if every state was just Labor, it would be so much better. Then we could finally get everything done. So they want their one-party state. And let's imagine it's super progressive, just like Pauline's cartoon portrays it to be.
Have you watched that yet?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we can speak about that. But let's imagine that is their ideal situation in this new world order or whatever it is they want to be. Okay, cool. And then we're all eventually, through re-education and having enough fingers pointed at us and being called xenophobe and racist and bigot enough and being excluded from participation in what they refer to as pleasant society. Mate, that's so unlikely to happen, Bob. That's not going to happen. You're never going to get on board with that. So, of course, therefore, the question is, if they do know that they're going to meet fierce resistance, why would they still take this course of action deliberately when it's not even close to the majority of the population that supports them?
Well, power corrupts, mate. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. So there's plenty of examples in history is where politicians go down that very road. So I think the problem you got in Australia is we've had it so good for so long as a country with what we've had is people just don't think it can happen here. But all the elements, if you understand history, all the elements in Australia right now are in place for that very thing to happen, which is pretty frightening. I hope we never get there. I really do. I hope all these scenarios I'm putting out here are 1,000% wrong. But the problem is with those new laws coming in, a government can do it. All you've got to do is get a corrupt bureaucrat as head of your federal police, and a Tony Burke type goes up to him and said, I want these guys banned as an extremist group. If he comes through and does that, and like you said, we've got a left-leaning media.
Yep.
They will put across the perception that we're living in a democracy when we're not.
Yep.
Now, I think a lot of people are getting excited because the first time we're going to have two opposing views, we're going to have a clash of ideas. We actually have the chance of actually having a living, breathing democracy. We haven't had that for quite some time. So do they want that? Probably not. I mean, I am actually worried about that a fair bit because what the part you're not talking about is what comes after that. Let's say they pull the finger, we're in a one-party state, then what happens? What happens to people like you and me who have got opposing views? For me, it's not such a big deal. I'm close to the end than the finish, but you're a young guy. What happens? History tells you what happens, and I think we both got to be a little bit careful what we say publicly because, you do have the hate speech laws. If we say something and we've got an ALP sycophant watching us right now, they could get us banned off social media, all sorts of different things. We could have the cops.
What's hateful? What can you say that's hateful?
That's what I'm saying. I'm being careful.
What, from the river to the sea? Like, it's ridiculous that can be considered hateful because I'm not involved. I don't have a dog in that fight over there for whatever the interpretation they're trying to apply to me now for that statement.
No, I'm not talking. It
doesn't come with the same venom at all. So, but this is what we're getting to, Bob. So there's certain terminology now that they wish to make illegal, and these are words which have been able to be used in phrases in this country legally for 150 years. And they also want to do things at their own discretion without any oversight.
Mate, that's
Tony Burke is perfect with that, right?
Yeah, but it's all changed. Sorry, law's changed. So we're no longer that free country that can speak freely. I do think.
Well, I can ride jet skis and motorbikes, so I'm getting away.
Oh no, you can do that
or by the road. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's ridiculous.
I just think when we put ourselves there on a podcast live stream, we share it publicly. Yep. I just think it's smart to dot your I's and cross your T's. And if people know history and I say what comes next after they say ban, if they go ahead and ban one nation, I don't think you have to be, if you're not a student in history, become one because the answers are there.
Yeah, you don't have to be blind, Freddie. And Bob, let me ask you then, how much of this is a serious concern to you because you're not making this up? You can read the writing on the wall and you'd prefer it doesn't go that far. And hopefully they will catch themselves and pull themselves up before trying to cast them as that. But I think the reason why Julian is using that language, and rest assured some others will in the coming days and weeks as well, eventually they're going to be asked the question, you've called them a hate group. Why are you saying that? You've called them violent. How is Pauline Hanson violent? She is not, right? But they say words are violence. And according to Words Are Violent, she said words which they interpret as violent and as offensive. So therefore, it's carte blanche, full assault on them. Now, at that point, when they are asked the question, are they hateful? They're going to run examples of what they believe constitutes that. And that will give them some type of brief or evidence, whatever it may be, to then use as allegations against why justifiably they should be wiped out. Because short of using their own words against them, how can they annihilate them? How can they take them out under the law? I think it's because of the things they have said and will continue to say that will now be interpreted as something other than what they mean, to favour the government into silencing them. I think Pauline's going to go hell for leather on this stuff, though. I don't think Barnaby cares. Is he a real cowboy or not? The sheriff's got to ride into town at some stage.
I think Barnaby's underestimated. I think he's a lot smarter than what people like to paint him as. I love Pauline, but she does worry me. I hope they've got some good people in the background. So, for example, I'll give you an example of what they would argue constitutes hate speech laws is her stunt of wearing the burqa into the Senate. She can't do that anymore. She's got to be smarter.
Yeah, of course.
Because, and I'm not even talking for Pauline Hanson's benefit. Yep. I'm talking for all of us who want to get behind her.
Yep.
I still think I'm concerned, but not concerned to a great degree. I think it would take enormous courage for the ALP to go down that road. And even in my most optimistic fashion, and who knows, 2 years is a long time, I don't think One Nation is going to be capable of winning government next time. I hope I'm wrong, because it would be so entertaining. And I would be happy to be wrong if that was the case. But the point when One Nation gets to, if we can get through the next election with nothing like that happening, I think we're okay. Because if what you're probably going to find is One Nation, for example, might have 20 seats. Liberals might have 15. One Nation is now your main opposition. By that time, Pauline Hanson, 74, there'll be, or a bit older, there'll be a succession plan coming with younger people coming through. And hopefully they have some people with some real good nuance, still the same conservative values. And all of a sudden you've got a legitimate political party. Well, God, you're going to have some chutzpah to then ban them, aren't you? You're basically asking for a civil war nearly. So if we can get through the next election, I think we'll be okay. Does Albo have the courage to do something like that? He doesn't strike me as that sort of guy. So if it was Vladimir Putin in Albo's thing, I think Vlad wouldn't hesitate. He'd take you out.
So Vlad would be good for Australia for certain things. Putin's way works for certain things.
No, I agree.
They all do, 100%. But
I agree.
Yeah, to think that Albo can manage this and somehow juggle it all is madness.
Yeah.
Okay, he's roller skating on ice, trying to bloody take a tray of drinks to somebody sitting at a table, and he's going to fall over and crash every single time. They'd hope that he can avoid as much camera time as possible. He can never satisfy them. All of the people that are out on the streets protesting Herzog and Israel's stance in regards to what the conflict is over there in Gaza, all of those people, Bob, typically in the last couple of elections, have they voted for the Liberal Party or for the Labor Party if given a two-horse race?
I'd say the Greens.
Yeah, okay. But by extension then, that goes across.
So it's ALP.
So it's ALP. They're certainly not going the other direction. And now...
Why do you think they're checking their language every time when they refer to them? They don't want to get them offside, and that's why they've been able to march for 2.5 years. I mean, again, the media don't call it out though. It's just look, this is the reason you came on today. So since we've got there, we might as well chat about it. I mean, to me, everyone talks about freedom of speech and all this, and this is where, to me, I look at those marches and I don't see them as a protest. I see them as an insurrection.
The Palestinian
pro-Palestinian.
Burn the Intifada or whatever it is.
Intifada. Yeah. And I don't really want to get into the whole ideology between Zionism. I always mispronounce that word.
But we're talking about those protesters, though, not MFA stuff, not Scotty Challen and those guys.
The war stuff. You probably missed the first part of my thing. So I'll run through my argument for you. So March for Australia, fine. That's an Australian issue. I've got no issue with that. And even with the NSN, I have my issues with the NSN. I disagree with their ideology. But I do not, for example, that guy that got up in the stadium and said his anti-Semitic stuff, whatever you want to say, stupid, you're a dickhead, should he have been arrested? No, he just said stupid shit, and you could say the same thing about the river to the sea. The problem is you've got to a point now that both parties, the so-called major political parties, have introduced hate speech laws where it's now going to be tit for tat. If someone on the left says something that can be screwed as hate speech, the left are going to come out for someone on the right who can be construed for hate speech, and vice versa. So we're in this shit where everyone, if you're on the left and I'm on the right, we're looking at each other's thing through a microscope on speech. That's hate speech, lock him up. It's just bizarre beyond belief. It's a battle of ideas. Now, where that changes, so I can have an argument with someone in the NSN. Yeah. I can have an argument with someone on March for Australia, or I can have an argument with someone that ALP or Greens. And at the end of it, I'll go home, I'll walk my dog, I'll have a cup of coffee, a beer. I don't care.
You're not going to blow them up.
No. You're not going to blow them up. Yeah. And I'm also not going to tear down my country. I'm a patriot. I love Australia. I love what it's been. It's been a gift to the world. But there's no doubt in my mind, everyone that does those pro-Palestinian marches want to tear down this country and what it represents. So they're using the camouflage of free speech for a nefarious agenda. Yeah, they are. People who march in the March for Australia, I can disagree with them as much as I like, but I have no doubt they're marching because they love this country.
And they don't get a pass. None of their people get a pass. The people there, they can burn Australian flags, they can burn effigies, they can say horrible things.
They can spit on
This is what's amazing. So there was a confession by New South Wales Premier Chris Minns early today. And I saw the clip and I said, that's frankly astonishing. But he said, look, we couldn't tell you until today, but when we had all that problem go down when Herzog was in town and we had armed police dressed as sort of riot guys, stormtrooper versions, running at people trying to disperse them into certain streets and areas of the CBD, the reason why we had to do that is because we had prior knowledge that there were going to be approximately 7,000 Jewish members of the community that were walking in very close proximity to where all of those people were converging, and a predetermined plan had already been rolled out and was being rolled out, wherein they had to ensure that the pro-Palestine protesters that you're speaking about did not even come into a line of sight of any of these 7,000 Jews that were making their way back from Bondi or whatever it may have been. So basically, so basically, Chris Minns admitted on the public record that if police hadn't have done that, and these two groups had have come together, if those protesters had have seen 7,000 Jewish people, you would have had the equivalent of a race war on the Australian streets.
Isn't that nuts? How we speak, mate. I grew up in a country, and when I say grew up, like into my
race/holy war on the Australian streets,
into my mid-40s. I made a post today, right? And I live in so you're on the Gold Coast, right? So in Melbourne, when I first moved down to Melbourne, this is back in 1987. I didn't know Melbourne from a bar of soap. I was a country boy. So I shifted out of a few houses, had to get myself settled, and I ended up settling in Bentley East in Melbourne. Bentley East is in LGA called the City of Glenora. Just happens to be the most densely populated area in Melbourne, in Australia, for the Jewish population. So for 30 years, at first I didn't even know, really, honestly, I knew about Jewish stuff, mainly from my parents who taught me about World War II. But I'd never met a Jew, didn't know what they believed in, had no idea. And I remember coaching a team once, and they were talking about the 4x2s, which is a reference to Jews. And I cracked the shits at my boys. This is in a footy game. And I said, can't be that racist. And they're all looking at me and go, well, that's just why we talk. And, I just was totally ignorant of all this sort of stuff. Over time, I got to work with a bunch of them and other people of different cultures and all this. What gets me is most people, if you walk past a Jewish person without them having their kafifas or whatever they call that, what's that thing they have in there? Or their flag or some sort of symbol.
The kippah.
Yeah, the kippah. Yeah. You wouldn't even know. Yeah. You wouldn't even know they were Jewish. I mean, for 30 years, I could go to the football with Jewish friends, Christian friends, atheist friends. We'd go to the football, we'd watch our team, we'd go to the cricket, we'd go to the pub, we'd share these. We didn't give a shit about anybody's culture, faith, or whatever. Now, You can't even walk down the fucking street without a race riot. I mean, we have changed. It's just, there's no doubt in my mind. I know in my mind what's changed that, and that is the immigration we've allowed in this country that has split us, which is and I could be accused of racist, I don't care, which is the faith. They did it in the freaking fucking protest that will sit in an intersection and do a public prayer just to inconvenience everyone. You know, who wants to have
Let me ask you on that. Okay. Yeah. Was that the bullshit? Was that the bullshit, Bob? You made the comment, bullshit.
Actually, you're on. What I can't remember. I don't know how you pronounce it. Mick and Mayers. We get into lots of debates. Right. We've been in one. Right. That's good. I enjoy it actually with him. I love the band.
You know. Yep. So go on. Let's. Yeah. So yeah, we know who it is. He did something. I respect.
Yeah. My partner you came in the middle of an argument between. Yeah. And it was about free speech and the right to protest. My reading of that, and I get this too, is if you're a proponent for the March for Australia marches or any other marches, right, and you're seeing the New South Wales police charge the pro-Palestinian, go, shit, are they going to be treating each march like this? Well, they got provoked a little bit, but these bastards have been going for 2.5 years. They've had their free speech. They've got their point across. And in my mind, this is not about free speech. This is about dividing Australia, where we start hating each other and tearing down what we used to be, right? So I don't see free speech in that. I see insurrection. I watch the March for Australia things and I see free speech. Might not agree with it, but they're peacefully on the whole. Thomas Sewell and his mob, when they went for that camp, might not have. But on the whole, they're people who've got the Australian flag wrapped around the thing. They march peacefully through the streets. They go to a thing. They listen to speakers. They go home. They go to work the next day.
That's Beck and Jesse from MFA and Ozpill and the rest of them. They're doing whatever they need to do, but they are literally doing free speech. They're causing no problems. Some people may not like it, but as far as you're concerned, no, they're allowed to do that going forward. Infinity.
There's stuff. And listen, Beck Freedom, I mean, I disagree with her a lot. I've exchanged with her on things. She's had a crack at me sometimes. I've had a crack at her. And you know what I've done? Can I guess what I've done?
You've had a chat.
No, I've invited her on the podcast.
Of course.
So, I always invite people. Well, come and talk to her about it.
Bob, on that, are too many people trying to play for sheep stations when it's not sheep stations just yet?
Yes.
Okay, explain that. Yeah. Explain that to people, sort of what that means to the younger guys out there. From an old wiser head, things transpire a certain way and things transpire over time. We want them immediately, but there is a process. So yeah, break it down for people, mate.
Well, the simplest way I can describe it, listen, there's more important things in life. There's always someone worse off than you. There's some shitty things going on in this country with cost of living, housing affordability, all this sort of shit. But I still wouldn't exchange my life in this country for somewhere in Africa or somewhere in the Eastern Europe who are still getting over the Soviet bloc days. You know, their economies aren't where we've still got life really good. So you can protest your thing and make your arguments and do all that, but still realize Australia's still a fucking good place to live. It's getting worse. So we've got to sort of try and do it. But you got to be careful too. You don't go too far the extremes on right or left. Because if we go there, and this is where I'm concerned, we go there, and if Albo pulled the pin, for example, on banning One Nation, we then go from being a country that gets along and we go to the extremes. And when you've got too many people on both extremes, history shows you nothing good comes out of it. Nothing good. That's where wars start. That's where killing starts. That's where poverty comes in. Starvation comes in. A lot of innocents get killed. It's what we're seeing, for example, in Israel and Gaza. They hate each other. Why are we bringing that shit onto our streets? We have enough problems in Australia to deal with to get our way of life back. We need it. So if you're going to be, I can understand a person who's got a beef, for example, in NSN. But one thing I know from dealing with a lot of them, they don't come to me to understand my perspective, where we might be able to say, you know what, I was wrong there. I understand. How can we get some common ground? What do we both love about Australia? All right. So, for example, with the NSN guys, you have those extreme ones who say, I coach a bunch of these kids who I say Aussie kids, but their heritage goes back to some Asian countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, whatever. I've got a family with an Indonesian heritage who are 3 generations into Australia. their kids a brand. Why? Now, there's people on the extreme side says deport them. Why? What have they done wrong? You know, so you got to protect your culture. You got to protect your heritage. But to me, the most important thing, and it's not the same for everyone. For me, my most important thing is it's God first, family second, nation third. I love my country. But to me, my faith, my Christianity, the way I treat others, no matter who they are, they could be Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, I couldn't give a fuck. But to be able to do that, we've got to protect our Anglo-European culture. And we've got to make sure that remains dominant in Australia for that reason. Because too many other cultures will not give that same sort of, appreciation of just humanity. You know, if you've got an appreciation of humanity, you're not going to be killing civilians, right, at an unknown rate. And that applies to all of us. It doesn't just apply to things. So I'm going to an extreme sort of argument. But once you head down that rabbit hole of being too far, too extreme with your views, it's very hard to come back. So that's why I like to talk to people. And, I like to, how did you form your view? How did you get there? You might, for example, when we talk, you might get something that I don't understand on the younger generation side, though I think I'm pretty well equipped because I deal with them a lot. But I also might be able to get something for you and other ones to understand from my side. And we, at the end of the day, what have we all got in common? We're all Australians. We want this country, well, I hope this is what we got in common. We're all Australians and we want this country to be the very best it can be. And we want to pass on a better life for the next generations. That's what Australia used to be all about. For the first time, and this is to our shame, Australia in its short history, it's not a long history, is going to pass on to the next generation a lesser way of life. But it's still a good way of life. If we keep doing that, though, we're heading for trouble. So we've got to find some more common ground. We've got to find what are the bigger issues we should be concentrating on. There's enough issues in this country without importing issues from overseas or worrying about things we can't control. I'll give you an example. Israel, Jews, Zionism, it's all we ever hear about from the influencers, Tuck, Carl's, Candace. I can't do anything. You can't do anything about the people with the money, the power, and the back of the seams that are going to continuously lobby politicians. Even if one nation gets in, to get in, what do they need 76 lower house MPs and about 30 upper house senators to put through any legislation.
They need a miracle.
Yeah, well, eventually, let's say they get there.
Yep.
Are you telling me out of those 150 members of parliament that lobbyists aren't going to be able to influence those members? Of course they are. It's been going on since Cain killed Abel. I got in an argument about this. So you've just got to understand what you can control and what you can't. In this world, there are certain things you can just tear yourself up about that you can't do anything about. What are you doing while you're tearing yourself up about? You're missing walking your pet dog. You're missing the birth of your child. You're missing dating a good girlfriend. You're missing getting your best job. I can control what I can control. We're missing having conversations like this.
We are, Bob.
Yeah, so you get so wound up about it. And if people get to an extreme, I might say something, for example, and I got this today, I might say something, they might agree with me on 95% of everything I say, but then I say the one thing they can't accept, he's an arsehole, can't listen to him, blah, 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 call you all sorts of names, off you go. It's just, I said it today, it's insane. And we're becoming more polarized, more divided with every year that goes by. So my hope is we can get that voice. And funny how Julian Hill, I mean, there's a guy that practices polarization. He practices division. I tell you what, I've watched Pauline Hanson a lot longer than Julian Hill. And you know what? She said something about the Asians back in the 90s that she just didn't say it right. It wasn't because she was racist. She didn't say it right. She's been tainted with that her whole life.
Swamped by Asians.
Yeah. Well, and was she right? Yeah, she could have said it better.
Where's the lie? But have they been problematic? No. In hindsight, they haven't been, because they do not support some God who says, blow yourself up and I'll let you in heaven with 70 virgins. So, and that's a problem. So some people would, and Bob, this is addressing what you were touching upon before, mate. Yeah. Where do you draw the line? Because at some stage, the government has to say, we've got to prevent some people from coming into this country because they have an overrepresentation in the committing of these problems. And then other people immediately come and say, no, but this person hasn't committed the crimes, so you can't have a blanket approach. Therefore, everyone has to come on in, and we have to wait until a crime happens before we can say, this is a bad idea, now you have to go home.
Well,
how do you solve that issue?
Well, you do. Let me disagree with you a bit. I think that line's not that hard to draw. And you either deport them or you send them to jail. But I'll give you an example. If I'm a white guy that comes out and throws a bomb into an Islamic shop, how long do you reckon?
We just lost your audio for a second there, Bob, mate. So we've still got your video and everything, but I've lost your audio. I'll drop down and come straight back. Give me a second. I'll drop out and come straight back, mate. Okay, no, I've got no audio for some reason, Bob. I can't hear you, mate. If you can hear me, maybe a setting or something at your side's just messed up, but your audio is not coming through on my end. Yeah, so flick me the message. We'll see what it says. But yeah, aside from that, if this was the end of it, you can hear me. Yeah, but I can't hear you for some reason, mate. I've reset it. So who knows what? There's a thunderstorm rolling in as well at the moment, Bob. So I think my takeaway would be to close you out then. Yeah, I don't think you've got it backwards. I think you're hoping that the Liberal Party can settle this without too much bloodshed and to fall away into the background nicely and not cause too many problems. And let's see what Pauline can do between now and then. And let's hope that Labor can see common sense and not label or even attempt to make moves to fulfill what Julian Hill would prefer, because that certainly isn't going to work out well. That will lead to some form of bloodshed in time. And that's the one thing we have to avoid. I wish we had subtitles on the screen, Bob, because then I could still converse with you, mate. I can't hear. I'm gone. I've still got nothing. I can't hear anything from my end, Bob. So it must be literally, mate, thunderstorms or whatever rolling through. Who knows what? But I do appreciate you inviting me on to have a chat with you this evening. I always enjoy the perspectives that you put forward, because you challenge me and you make me think outside of the box. I certainly understand why people such as yourself would have applauded the police moves to move on people in the city, because you're growing very tired and frustrated of their constant presence, which is leading to people's daily activities being interrupted because they're descended upon by thousands that congest, intersections in capital cities. So that's not good. So I understand a line has to be drawn there. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. It would have been better if Netanyahu had have come to Australia. I think far more would have come out, and I think they would prefer to have Netanyahu's head over Herzog's head. But Netanyahu is currently got a warrant out for his arrest, and Australia would have been obligated to perform that arrest if he had have come. So instead, he sent his underling, for lack of a better term, and we've seen that play out. But Bob, once again, mate, somebody at some stage is going to have to address this burgeoning issue in the country in regards to an attitude which is held in the minds of many within that community. Because as far as you're concerned, the government hasn't done satisfactorily yet to arrest whatever these ideas are, and you want it the hell out of here, which is understandable. So Liberal Party is going to have to talk tough. Angus himself knows he's going to have to be on the front foot immediately. So people are going to be looking, okay, is this as hard as he's going to go? Is he going to come with a ramp it up, or is he going to come in at full speed immediately and try to smash down a few doors? Let's see. In 2 weeks' time, why don't we reassess it in 2 weeks' time, Bob? And then we can say, how's Angus going, baby? And let's figure it out. But until then, all the best, and God bless you and your audience as always. Australia first.